Last year I grew 10 amazing tomato varieties, and today I'm going to be reviewing each of those varieties to let you know how they did for me, what I thought of their flavor, and if it's something that I would recommend for you to grow at home. The first one on our list is the San Marzano paste tomato. I got the seed from Southern Seed Exposure, and it's a paste tomato, so it's hard for me to compare to the rest. However, I will say that it was very, very productive, but not as productive as Amish paste, which is another paste that I've grown in previous years. One thing I noticed about the San Marzano is it was really hard to get it to ripen fully to a full, really deep red, which I'm assuming is where some of that grape flavor comes from. I think some factors that contribute to this is fungal issues, and I have a lot of pest pressure from shield bugs, like the leaf-footed bugs and stink bugs. So I think those are getting to the fruit and causing it to go bad before it can fully ripen. So that is something I will definitely be troubleshooting this year. If any of you have had success with battling these issues, please let me know. Send me a message or drop a comment so that I can kind of start my research off there, because the shield bugs, they're not supposed to be a big nuisance, but for me in my area, they really are pretty bad, and it really affects my tomatoes. So let me know if you have any help on that. Because I wasn't able to get that red, beautiful taste, the San Marzano tomatoes that I was able to get didn't have amazing flavor, and I did make some tomato sauce with them, and even that was kind of lackluster. It just didn't have any depth of flavor, and it just wasn't for me. So overall, I would rate this a 7 out of 10 because it was very productive and produced throughout the entire season, but the fruit ripening is something, I don't know if it's the variety that it can do that, or if it's just not good for my area. All right, moving on. The next tomato on our list is Sun Gold. This is a gold cherry tomato that came highly recommended from multiple sources, and this was my first year growing it. Now, I did get it from Fedco Seeds, and I loved them. They were one of my first top producers. They were delicious as long as you let them ripen all the way. The first one on the plant, I will say, I tried it before it was ripe and it was just me, but that makes sense because it wasn't ripe. So let them ripen on the vine. Now, one thing that I was worried about was splitting, because I did see reviews that said that splitting can be pretty prevalent and impact your yield that you get from the plants. But I found them to be so productive that some of the splitting didn't really bother me too much. I also kind of lucked out because we had about a month, even a little over a month, where we had no rain at all. It was pretty much a drought. So I got to control the water, which helped reduce some of the splitting. It was so productive that I didn't mind tossing the ones that split out. And I love the flavor, I love the plant, so I will definitely be growing this again this year. So total overall, I will give Sun Gold a 9 out of 10. I would give it a 10 out of 10, but because of the splitting, that would have been a lot worse if we had different weather patterns. I had to take it down a little bit, but the strength of the plant, the vigor, disease resistance, very impressed overall. So 9 out of 10. Now, an alternative to Sun Gold that might not have the splitting issue is Sun Sugar. This is something that a viewer put in the comments and told me about. I have not tried it yet. If you have and you found it to be a little bit better with the disease or the cracking issue with Sun Gold, please let me know, because I will demote this one and promote that one. Okay, that is Sun Gold. It's getting hot in here. Third on our list is the Mountain Magic tomato. It is a hybrid tomato, and I got the seed from Fedco Seeds. Mountain Magic is a plum-sized tomato that is red, and it was very, very, very prolific and produced all the way into frost. Now, the tomato flavor itself was not anything to write home about. It was a good tomato flavor, but not anything fantastic. I did use them a lot in cutting up for dishes that I would make or put them in salads. However, I never found myself going and grabbing one to eat off the vine just while I was walking around in the garden. So that's just something to consider. However, they were very prolific and useful in cooking. So that's definitely a bonus. So I will give these an 8 out of 10 because they were so productive, so vigorous, so disease resistant. They just were not the best on flavor. So the fourth one on my list is Brad's Atomic Grape Tomato. This one, I didn't know what to think about this one because it's a green tomato and it has lots of different coloring, but the reviews were very, very bipolar. Like there's people who absolutely love this tomato and there's people who absolutely hated it. So it was definitely one that I was very curious about. I got seed from Baker Creek Seed, and at first I thought this one was going to be a total dud. As my tomatoes were growing through this season, I noticed that this one was lagging behind. It was very spindly and it actually started wilting with the hot heat we were having, which made me very nervous. I didn't know if it had gotten a wilt fungus or if a vole had gotten to the roots or anything, but I just kept watering it and eventually it caught up and stopped having that issue. So I was able to save it, and I'm glad I did because the tomatoes were very, very, very delicious. They have a lot of meat to them, so low gel, and the flavor is slightly sweeter than a traditional red, but also a little bit more depth and not as acidic as a traditional red. I have a picture of my toddler eating this just like an apple because he just reached up into the bowl and started eating it, and he kept taking bites out of it. So apparently he also approved of this one. Now, one thing to note is that the peel, even after frozen, did not come off very easily. If anything, it stuck to some of the flesh of the tomato. So these ones are harder to peel. Big note, because I do like that they do have more flesh so that you can use them in cooking, but that's just a little thing that I noticed. But overall, I would rate this one 8 out of 10 because it was really good. It was pretty productive. I had good production throughout the year and it tasted really good. The next tomato on our list was the Costoluto Genovese. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that this was one of my favorite tomatoes because of the classic tomato flavor that's just deep and delicious, perfect for just slicing and just eating directly like that. However, spoiler alert, it's no longer my favorite. So these started producing very well in the beginning of the season. It's usually my first producer, so I got tomatoes. They're probably about like this big and they're ribbed, so they're really pretty. However, last year I had a few tomatoes that cat faced, but it was only a few so I could just throw them away. This year I had a significant amount of them that cat faced. And they also got taken out by some kind of fungal virus or fungus, some kind of disease, wiped out a lot of my garden last year, and these tomatoes went with it. Now they are heirloom and I know they don't have as great disease resistance as some of the hybrids, but with the cat facing, not getting many off of them and them just kind of dwindling out, being like one of the first plants to just kind of quit for the season, I decided to look for a new alternative to replace this tomato in my repertoire. Unfortunately, I will give it a 6 out of 10 for this season. All right, the next one is a fan favorite Cherokee purple tomato. Now this was actually a repeat of previous years. I was giving it a second chance because I know people rave about the flavor. They say it's one of the best tasting tomatoes ever. I wanted to enjoy this and share in that experience that everyone else has been able to enjoy. So I gave it another shot, my second shot. I got the seed from Baker Creek Seeds and I got one tomato from it before it died. Not very happy about that. Very sad, actually. First I was angry and then I was just sad because I hear great things, but I just have not seen great things. I guess maybe it's the strain, the genetic strain that I'm planting, or maybe it's just my environment's not very good for the Cherokee purple, but both years that I've tried this, it crapped out very quickly and I only got like 1 to 2 tomatoes from it. Now, I like to plant my seeds early, so I do a lot of care, keeping them alive and then transplanting them out and then nurturing them and protecting them. For them to only give me 1 tomato, it's not acceptable. All right, So I had to give this one a 4 out of 10. And 4 because I still liked the tomato I got off. It was very good. I wouldn't say it was my favorite tomato, but it was a solid like 8 out of 10 on flavor. But everything else just counts too much against it. Next tomato on our list is similar because it's also a purple tomato. This one is Black Prince, and I got my seed from M.I. Gardner. This one, I don't believe is a hybrid. However, it grew like a hybrid. And by that, I mean it was productive, and the flavor was really good too. And the disease resistance was really great. So I thought when I tried this one that it was very comparable to the Cherokee purple tomato that I got. But it produced a lot more. And it produced all the way into my frost, so it has good disease resistance. So this one I actually gave a 9 out of 10 because of all those reasons, and I would definitely be growing this one again. Number 8, white Tomesol. This is a white tomato, the first one that I've grown. However, I have grown this one before. Last year I grew it and it was very productive and I was very happy with it. However, I couldn't get over that mental barrier of trying to eat a white tomato. So I never tried them and it broke my heart. So I grew them again this year and I did have great success like I did last year. So it is a very productive tomato, decent disease resistance. And I actually found this year that it kind of grew in flushes where it had like a spring flush or like early summer flush, and then it kind of piddled out a little bit and then another flush. That could have been because of the heat. I know sometimes fruit can be hard to set when you have high temperatures, but it did produce very well. And I did try it this year and it wasn't bad. It was pretty good, but it was bland. It was mild and subtle flavor hints. So it might be good for like if you do like a lot of cooking fish or very delicate flavors. This would be really good in a salad with really delicate flavors. But I like a little bit of punch. I like a little bit of depth and mystery, and this didn't cut it for me. It would be a very, very great tomato if that's what you're looking for, but it's not for me. So this one, the white Tomesol, I did give an 8 out of 10 because everything else is very great tomato. Flavor is a great tomato if you want something mild and delicate. However, I don't, so I'm not going to be growing this one in future years. The next two on my list were the two I probably had the highest hopes for. First one is Ananas Noir, or black pineapple. It is a green tomato with red streaking on the inside, and I loved it. It was so good. This was my favorite tomato of the entire season. It was delicious, it was productive, disease resistance, it was strong with the vine growth. It was just everything you want in a tomato, and it did not have as many pest issues or bird issues because the green, I think it just camouflages in better and the birds don't think, oh, this is a fruit because it doesn't identify as a fruit as easily. But it was so good. It had like a sweetness to it that not as sweet as the next one, but it had a delicate sweetness, but you could still pair it with savory options. It was just 10 out of 10, and that's what I gave this one. So that was the Ananas Noir. I would recommend this tomato. Lastly, but certainly not least, we have Virginia Sweets. Virginia Sweets is a yellow tomato with red streaking, and I loved this one as well. This one had very similar growth habits to the Ananas Noir. It was strong, productive, disease resistance. Actually, I would say that Virginia Sweets was more productive than the Ananas Noir, but not by much. The tomatoes were giant and juicy and delicious. Now, both of these have decent meat on them. So when you slice through, you don't have huge pockets of gel. They're in there, but it's not significant, which I really like as well, because if you slice it to put on a burger or you're cutting it up to put in something, then you're actually getting a lot of the actual tomato itself. Definitely would recommend this one. And per its name, it is very sweet. Sometimes, depending on what I was putting it in, it was almost a little too sweet for me, but it's a good tomato. It's delicious. If you like sweet tomatoes, this one is 100% for you. I would give this one a 9 out of 10 just because it was a little too sweet for certain things. There you have it, my review for 2024. Hopefully, if you tried any of these before, you would have had similar experiences, or maybe not. Maybe you have had better experiences, which is what I would hope for you. And if you haven't tried any, especially my higher ones on the list, I would recommend going out and trying them out. Take a stab at them and see if it's something that you would be interested in. Anyway, that's what we have for the year. Stay tuned because I am growing tomatoes again this year, and I'm going to be throwing a couple more varieties in, or a couple different varieties in. So stay tuned to see that video. And anyway, happy gardening. I'll see you later. Where am I looking? I'm looking like I need like a little like light. These doggies, but they're on a leash. They didn't look like they're on a leash at first, but they look like good doggies, so it'll be okay.